Okay, hello everyone. I'm Olivia Stewart, and I'm a part of the Windy City Civils, and today we're going to talk about the 143rd Street expansion proposal. First, I want to talk about our amazing company. We are the Windy City Civils, and we are a women and veteran-owned firm. We were established in 1974, and we have 50-plus years of experience in transportation, bridge, and MSC construction. We are a diverse and licensed engineering team in multiple different states, and we have a very strong record, including major corridor expansions, bridge and utility coordination, as well as multiple IDOT projects. First, I want to talk about our proposal. Today, we're going to talk about our project team, project management, technical approach, schedule, as well as the cost estimate. So first, I want you guys to meet my amazing team. My name, obviously, is Olivia Stewart, and I'm the project manager.
I'm Luca Moreno. I'm the project engineer.
My name is Alex Hall. I'm the site safety officer.
I'm Audrey Paquette. I'm the community relations officer.
I'm Carter Wasser. I'm the lead scheduler.
I'm Lauren LaRue, the lead estimator.
Now I want to mention our project goals. These goals are extremely important to us, and they include safety and we are community focused. So now I want to talk about our project management style. We hold very high standards at the Windy City Civils, and we are heavily influenced by our QA/QC program. This includes our experienced quality assurance staff that uphold a very high criteria, as well as we will be completing daily inspections of critical phases in the project. This is actually cool because we are going to use some of the emerging technology in the form of drones to help out with our QA/QC. We're going to be doing this by using the drones to monitor the usage of our different materials and making sure that we are using the most efficient use of them. Another big important part of this is communicating through the different crews, inspectors, and project managers. This is going to happen through weekly coordination meetings. This allows us to align our entire team upholding our very high standards. To touch on our high standards, we're going to be completing multiple compaction testing and concrete testing on the site. To hold these high standards, we are going to pass it to Alex to talk about our risk analysis.
Thank you, Olivia. If I could get the clicker. Awesome. So our team conducted a comprehensive risk assessment by first identifying what risks were on the site, the project site. So we organized those risks into categories, including environmental, safety, legal, scheduling, and cost. The next step was to analyze these risks. To do that, we established a risk rating score. You can see that on the y-axis of the graph here. We're going to see the most conflicts are going to be interfering with our scheduling. The next step was to develop a response strategy for this. To do so, we organized with we established a risk owner. In doing so, we are creating a proactive approach and having a support network where people know if a problem were to go wrong, they know who that falls back on. And our last step was to monitor and control these risks. We conducted a stakeholder analysis, and we are planning to keep continuous monitoring of the site in order to be proactive in our construction. So let's go into our rigorous risk register and analyze the 3 highest priority risks. So first, we have our stormwater management. This is an environmental risk. It has a risk rating score of 20. This is based on the both likelihood and severity of the pollution impact. Our next risk is the utility conflicts, and that is identified as a safety risk. And our last is the hazardous weather conditions. We have scores of 20, 16, and 15. The maximum score is 25, so these are all pretty high priority tasks. So in developing our response strategy for the stormwater pollution prevention, we identified that this is a continuous problem as well as a very severe problem. So to mitigate this risk, we want to transfer that risk onto either resources that we can use from IDOT if they have a stormwater pollution prevention team, or identify a sub-consultant or a consultant who can develop a comprehensive stormwater pollution prevention plan, as well as hold pollution liability insurance. Our next one, utility conflicts, that's going to connect to, we're going to try and avoid that risk at all costs. So we've already been in contact with Julie Call Before You Dig to locate the existing utilities on site. Our next step is going to be to use our donated drones to keep an active review of what is actively going on the site, and when there is digging that is occurring, making sure that we have accurate site maps of where those utilities are located. our last is the hazardous weather conditions. We're accepting that risk by including float days within our schedule. We have expected high levels of rainfall in the autumn, as well as 12 inches of snowfall in the winter. So we want to include leniency within our schedule to account for that weather, those weather patterns.
Thank you, Alex. At Windy City Civils, we are committed to the highest standards of health, safety, and environmental performance. That's why we've included a week-long health and safety training required by all personnel. Protecting both our workers and environment is one of our core priorities. Pre-construction and job hazard analysis will also be created. We will ensure site is controlled throughout the LOD. Fall protection will be placed and inspected daily. Noise and dust control will be controlled and sensitive to the community and our workers. An emergency response plan will be developed covering medical emergencies, severe weather, and hazardous spills. Emergency contacts and maps will be posted throughout the job site. We have marked a clearly marked muster point will be outside the work zone. On-site kits will be put into place as well. A map to the nearest hospital will be placed clearly throughout the site. Spill prevention plan will be a part of the health and safety program, reviewed carefully in our health and safety training. Stormwater pollution prevention plan is one of the highest risks for this project. We will subcontract out with a highly experienced consultant. An erosion control plan is designed to protect the lake water quality. We will ensure PPE is required in all active work sites. Heat stress prevention plan, we will monitor daily weather, and mental health support will be easily accessible for all of our personnel.
So 21.2% of our budgeted subwork is disadvantaged business enterprise. For example, Deep Flow is minority business owned, Erosion Edge is women business owned, and Gage's Gage Guys are an emerging small business. So companies like this we depend on and trust. They know how we work. We know how they work. We work very well together. We've worked together before. We don't just hire these companies to meet the 20% requirement, but we've built communities with these companies. We have built relationships, and as well as their local companies, and we want to support the local economy. Now, we didn't just choose these companies because we've worked with them before, but we have carefully tracked the quotes and production rates of all of the quotes that we received, and they were the most efficiently priced while still knowing that we will receive quality work in the end.
Thank you, Lauren. Now I'm going to go over our public communication strategy, which is a key aspect of our work. So when it comes to stakeholder and public communication, we're going to hold 2 town hall meetings, one prior to construction and the second one in mid-construction. And we're also going to provide weekly website and email updates to all of our stakeholders on project updates. And we're also going to provide email alerts to public on traffic updates and schedule changes. When it comes to the technical approach, our first civil technical approach is obviously the site mobilization, which is when we're actually going to secure access and install appropriate fencing throughout the project site. And we're also going to mobilize all of the equipment and heavy machinery in all of the appropriate staging zones. Our second phase of the project is the clearing and grubbing phase, which is when we're actually going to remove all of the vegetation and debris from the project site. And we're also going to implement dust control during activities to minimize health hazards and risks to all of our inside workers. Our third phase of the project is the earthwork and grading. In this phase, we're going to excavate the topsoil and then pour the structural fill and adjust the moisture content of such fill according to all of geotechnical specs provided by the geotechnical report that we obtained through our consulting firm. We're also going to add drainage pipes and erosion mats in this phase as well. Our fourth stage in the civil portion of our technical aspect is roadway construction, which is when we're actually going to construct the foundation layers like gravel and asphalt, and we're also going to build turn lanes, medians, and curb systems, and we're also installing ADA compliant multi-use bike paths throughout the whole corridor. Our fifth stage of the civil portion of it, it's the drainage control phase, which is highly important and very critical. We're going to install reinforced concrete pipes throughout the whole project, ditches and inlets. We're going to grade the terrain for runoff and ensure backup filters are actively on site throughout the whole project completion. And we're also going to coordinate with multiple RCP suppliers to make sure that we don't have any delivery delays that can impact the overall project schedule. Our last civil portion of it is erosion and sediment control. We're going to use mats, check dams, and hydro seeding to mitigate runoff into Fletcher Lake and control standing water. Now, when it comes to the structure portion of our project, the first structure that we're actually going to build on site are the MSE walls, which are mechanically stabilized earth walls. In order to build them, we're going to excavate and install a leveling pad, and then place the MSE units on top of it with geotextile fabric. We're also going to add drainage systems and monitor wall movement to account for unexpected deflections, soil, and structural instability. We're also going to install guardrails and safety nets to mitigate the risk of falling on heights that are above 6 feet. Our second structural approach is also accounting for drainage in the project site. We're going to install large reinforced concrete pipes for drainage, and we're also going to apply dewater and geotextiles as needed throughout the whole construction project. Finally, a very key aspect of our work is the structural coordination. We're going to hold multiple pre-construction meetings with project engineers, project managers, and structural engineers to ensure that all of our timeline is correct and accurate. We're going to align pours with road closures. We're going to avoid concrete pouring during the winter and snow months, and we're also going to align with all of these engineers and managers that no asphalt is going to be poured between November and April.
Thank you, Luca. So now we're talking about coordination, so we're getting into our schedule. Schedule is extremely important because without one, what are we going to do? So with this, we're going to talk about staging and sequencing. I'm going to talk a little bit about sequencing real quick. We have the mobilization in our secondary yard, our field office, and our haul routes are our main things. With that, in the northwest, we have our field office right over here, and then we have our two different yards, one on the west side and one on the east side, and then my colleague Alex is going to talk a little bit more about the sequencing part.
Awesome, thank you, Carter. Yeah, so as you guys know, our site exists within a very large floodplain. We got it right here. That floodplain extends just before this shed right here. So we want to make sure that we're following the Environmental Protection Agency's requirements and not storing excavated materials within that floodplain, modifying it, causing hazards further down the line. Furthermore, those excavated materials are going to, instead of being stored over on this side where there's not even really good access, they're going to be stored right next to State Route 126. State Route 126 has easy accessibility to other other interstates, making the import and export of materials very feasible, as well as the floodplain boundary just cuts right before this line right here. So making sure that we're in compliance with all legal requirements. Yeah.
Okay, so now we're going to get back into our scheduling. So as you can see, Windy City Civils uses a different type of software for our scheduling. It's brand new, world-renowned, and all we use here at Windy City. So with that, you can see our critical path right here. Our working days are from 7 to 5, and on Fridays you get out 2 hours early, which is quite nice. About 286 total days of work, 44 of those being overtime, and then 23 holidays, including St. Patrick's Day, because we know how important that is in the Chicago area. Additionally, we have float. We have about 8 days of float if we need to shift right at all due to weather, but we already do have that in our schedule for both the excavation, the concrete, and the asphalt. So the excavation will be done during the winter months. We'll start the concrete about mid-March, and then asphalt, as we said, can't start until April 1st, so we're starting about first week of April. Additionally, we're going to have meetings. We have toolbox meetings every single day to make sure everyone's on the same page, as well as 2 town halls included in the actual project. So we have one in March, just right before we pour, so the community understands what's about to go on, if they have any questions. And then the last one's in June, so about 3 months before we're done with the project, they can understand understand what's going on, where we're going in the future. And lastly, my favorite part is the middle school visits, including Timber Creek Middle School is going to be coming to our job site, specifically during April. So that's right when we're doing our pour, so they can understand the importance of being an engineer, construction, safety, because you didn't really have that opportunity as a middle schooler to say, I want to be an engineer. What really was that? So we thought that was extremely important in our community outreach to have that in our schedule as well.
So moving on to the cost estimate. Our final bid price was $10,053,080.03. So we are self-performing our areas of expertise, which include the earthwork and retaining walls, or the MSC wall. And then we are using our subcontractors to use their areas of expertise so we can ensure that the entire project will be of quality work. And to find our costs and schedule for our bid items, we use the RS Means data. This is very accurate data because it includes all of our past data as well as region-specific labor hours. And all the detailed takeoffs were included in our proposal. There are no hidden costs. Everything is right up front there. As well as we made assumptions in our cost as the 10% concrete waste for the concrete testing and just what gets stuck in the back of the truck, and then 15% of the topsoil shrinkage. Since it is such a light material, it will settle. And then as well as the waste planned to get hauled out, the excavation material. And then there is contingency in the budget for any unforeseen conditions. You never know if there's a pocket of soil that doesn't come up in the geotechnical testing. So this is a compiled bid for all the self-performed and the subcontracted items for the entire scope of work, and we included all of the risks and all the bid items to see if we needed some extra budget for those as well. Any questions?
Thank you.
It turned off.
I'll start us out. Thank you for your presentation. I had seen in your bid form that you carried a 15% contingency. Could you elaborate on how you selected that number, and were there any particularly large risks that drove that relatively high contingency?
So that contingency, we do consider the factors of this project, but it has also worked very well in our past projects of similar scope. So we've considered looked back at our past data and compared that with this project, and it's a similar fit, but Alex can talk about the risks for this project.
Yeah, absolutely. When we're getting into the nitty-gritty on what our team is very skilled at and what factors are playing into working next to an active floodplain, or what is required within the surrounding community as far as the local events that are going on at the lake and so on, we understand that it's better to play to our strengths than to try and compensate for something. So rather than come up here and lie to you guys and say that we don't know what we're doing, or that we know what we're doing, we establish a high contingency to maybe allow room for that buffer, and we can work directly with you to work with other industry professionals. That's where that contingency buffer maybe looks a little bit higher. That's specifically on the floodplain and pollution prevention. Other factors that she mentioned with the bid item list also play into account in previous projects. Thank you.
I have a question. So in your risk assessment, you were trying to avoid utility delays. What if you do come upon a utility conflict? How are you going to mitigate that?
Yeah, so I specifically outlined utility conflicts as a safety concern, or as a safety risk. If I do come across a utility conflict, that happens in the field all of the time. We have our legal team to back us up on our workers' rights if they get injured in the field, as well as a detailed and very expert scheduler who understands that there is room to move around when we do experience utility conflicts. As I said, we also have already been in contact with somebody to go out and mark the site, as well as we have a direct on-call individual or we would establish a direct on-call individual for each of the existing utilities within the area. So that way we can expedite that process. Thank you.
Within the schedule, we have a few buffers, so there's a few days, and you can see from left to right, it goes from 2025 to 2026 October. So with that, we do have a few buffer days, as you can see. There's some blank days, and so those days are just a little regroup day. If we need those milestones of understanding, have we gotten to this point? Okay, now we can start this, but if we can't start now, then we can have that extra buffer day to shift right. So we have those 8 extra days in the actual schedule, just to buffer if we need them.
I'd also like to elaborate that establishing a risk owner, and also float days within our schedule, those are allowing us to be able to know who to contact and get them on those high priority task lists. This is a living document. It's not set in stone, and it's a heat map to show that when we are experiencing, even from issues with local events limiting like flow in and out of our site, we can make sure that we're on top of how we're staying on top of our critical path. Yeah.
So the red days are the holidays that we already had in, so those 23 holidays that we already had scheduled. So you can see there's breaks within the actual activity. And then the lighter colors are the overtime, so you can see those Fridays of which you're getting overtime that are planned out. So everyone loves the schedule of seeing when you're gonna get paid a little extra, so I included that in just to see a little bit of change in color.
Thank you.
So I'm seeing here on the schedule, your substantial completion date looks like it's somewhere around the end of October. For the RFP, it seems like the substantial completion must be September 30th, 2026. Can you explain that?
Yes, so it actually is on the schedule as September 22nd. I added in the punch list at the end, so we had the entire schedule. So our punch list actually ends on October 20th, so we have 1 extra day if we need so to get out of there. But we do have our end date as of right now is September 22nd, and that's where the 8 extra days come into play.
I have a question about your critically timed activities. When are the activities like excavation and concrete and asphalt scheduled for? And then what do you do if those slip or if you have an opportunity to move them up?
Yes, so we did plan for that actually. So our excavation is in the winter months, about November time frame. I don't know how to where's the pointer? Okay, here we go. So we have our excavation happening right about here, and then this is where, oh yes, right about there. There they are. Excavation happening right about there, and then we get into our concrete pour mid-March. So if we need to move it forward, we can with concrete. It's just the asphalt, which we did plan for. So the asphalt isn't actually going to be poured until April 7th. So we have about a 6-day buffer to which we can go left if we need to.
That's a great question. Did you want
I think we established that our biggest risk is definitely when it comes to erosion control and our being in a floodplain area. And then when we were out on our site visit, we really noticed how there are so many pieces. There's the overhead transmission line as well as those lakes and rivers area, and you're really affecting the community in that way. And we wanted to make sure that doing this project now, although we're accounting for all the runoff into the water and such as that in 10, 20 years, we're still not affecting these bodies of water and wildlife. So personally, I really do care about the wildlife aspect of this, and I wanted to make sure that although we're considering our impact now, that in the future it's also going to be completely fine.
If I could expand on that a little bit too. So when we established our risk categories and into those 5 separate sections, you can notice in the bar chart that if you want to flip to the bar chart, that our highest risk is in the scheduling. Now that's encompasses the entire project. So like if you want to know what specifically is in that, we have a comprehensive risk register of approximately line items that are actively being updated. Within most of those, it's that coordination that we're finding with whoever is the risk owner of that. And so maintaining an active communication, I think, while without it would make these really challenging. Our weekly meetings with the stakeholders and our toolbox meetings that are conveyed both with the project engineer, the project manager, and other important on-site officials will mitigate those challenges. Thank you.
I have another question. So in addition to the 15% contingency that we already discussed, you also carry a 15% overhead profit. Would you like to provide some more clarity on why selecting you guys might be worth that extra premium?
Yeah, so the overhead and profit, that covers like all of our staffing needs, the office staffing needs in our office itself, everything in the office, as well as our profit to get paid.
And let's be honest, this
Yeah.
is a heavy earthwork project,
Yeah.
and you're going to want an expert in earthwork. So that 15% overhead, that premium, you'll find worth it in the long end. Not only are we do we understand that our earthwork and with similar project experience will be of extreme value to you, but we're not up here, as I said before, we're not up here saying that we are professionals in everything, and we're looking not only to work for you, but also work with you in this project development. Thank you.
All right, I have one more question, only because we did this. You brought up the town halls. What would you do, or how would you address residents that are not happy that you're doing this right?
I would say that even though this construction might affect their daily lives right now, it's a piece of infrastructure that is going to really help them out in the future days when it's actually completed. Do you want to?
Yeah, I can. So those town halls take local residents. We have the Village of Plainfield. We have multiple stakeholders that exist within the area. We have the fishing events that are happening and so on. Our site has a very useful road it is a very useful road to be built, as well as a multi-use path. Having that consistent communication, as well as our legal team representing us on like where we're falling within the project bounds if we have issues with right-of-way, that's going to make our communication to them the most efficient. Dealing with angry people is always going to be an issue, like everywhere in our lives. It mostly comes from like, here's my understanding of the project and here's your understanding of the project, and where do we differ, and maybe if we can meet on a common ground of, if you don't like the noise, we can find noise prevention measures, or if you don't like the dust, we have dust prevention measures. And we're really looking to take in that angry feedback and organize our project to accommodate where we can, of course.
I also want to add that one of our big points when looking at the town hall meetings is really highlighting in well-designed graphics of the actual benefits for the village and how this is going to improve their daily life. Although construction isn't great when it's done, all the benefits that it's going to lead through the different freight paths and such as that. And although it is, obviously, there's still going to be angry people, I think designing in a good way to provide information and we have a very detailed plan for throughout the construction, making sure to update the village. So having constant communication hopefully will make them as happy about it as possible, even though we can't solve every issue.
Yes, it will be split 50-50 between us and then the stakeholders themselves, with whatever's left over.
With your schedule,
Yes, sir. So in our actual proposal, the Gantt chart has the critical path as well as all of the float times and the late start, early start for the entire project. In addition, this is just showing a snapshot of it. So everything that has the Gantt chart of your, everything that you're asking for is in our proposal. I just did a snapshot of this because there's so much information and so many tasks going on. It was very hard to fit it into just one slide. Don't think I can recall that at this time. My apologies.